Good afternoon again, people. Watch Women 65. Lisa Boyce here. I got another article as soon as I did this, the last one. It says, Israel and Sudan is close to a peace agreement. Now, I think Matt did something on this morning, I think. But this is the whole gist of it right here. It says, "We will do all that's needed to turn this vision into reality," said Prime Minister Netanyahu. It says, Israel and Sudan on Tuesday said they are close to reaching a peace agreement, setting the stage for the second dramatic diplomatic breakthrough for Israel with its Arab neighbors in a matter of days. A Sudanese foreign minister official announced that his government is looking forward to conducting a peace agreement with Israel, drawing a promise from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to do all that is needed to wrap up the deal. The announcement came days after Israel and the United Arab Emirates announced an agreement to establish formal diplomatic ties. While Sudan does not have the resources and influence of the United Arab Emirates, it has a far more hostile history towards Israel. Sudan hosted the landmark Arab Conference after the 1967 Mideast War, where 8 Arab countries approved the 3 no's. No peace with Israel, no recognition of Israel, and no negotiations. In 1993, the United States designated Sudan as a state sponsor of terrorism for its support of a number of anti-Israel Islamic terror groups, including Hamas and Hezbollah. But in recent years, those hostilities have softened. Both countries have expressed readiness to normalize relations. Sky News Arabia quoted a Sudanese foreign ministry spokesman as saying his government looked forward to a peace agreement based on equality and Sudanese interest. There is no reason to continue hostility between Sudan and Israel, the spokesman said. "We don't deny that there are communications with Israel," he added, saying both countries would gain much from the deal. In a statement, Netanyahu said Israel, Sudan, and the entire region will benefit. "We will do all that's needed to turn this vision into reality," he said. After Thursday's announcement with the United Arab Emirates, Netanyahu predicted that other Arab countries would soon follow suit. In February, Netanyahu met General Abdel Fattah Burhan, the head of Sudan's transitional government, during a trip to Uganda, where they pleaded to pursue normalization. The meeting was held secretly and only announced after the fact. An Israeli deal with Sudan would mark a new setback for the Palestinians, who condemned the United Emirates peace deal as treason. But the Mideast peace efforts, frozen for over a decade, and with encouragement from the Trump administration, Arab countries have increasingly put their own interests first. Sudan is desperate to lift sanctions linked to its listing by the U.S. as a state sponsor of terror, a key step toward ending its isolation and rebuilding an economy after the popular uprising that toppled longtime dictator Omar al-Bashir last year. A Sudanese official had acknowledged in February that the meeting with Netanyahu was orchestrated by the United Arab Emirates and aimed at helping to remove the terror listing, which dates back to the 1990s, when Sudan briefly hosted Osama bin Laden and other wanted militants. Under al-Bashir, Sudan was also believed to have served as a pipeline for Iran, to supply weapons to Palestinian terrorists in the Gaza Strip. Israel was believed to have been behind airstrikes in Sudan that deployed a convoy in 2009 and a weapons factory in 2012. Last week's announcement made the United Arab Emirates the third Arab country to establish full diplomatic ties with Israel. It goes on to say that Egypt was the first in 1979, followed by Jordan in 1994. Unofficial ties with Gulf Arab nations have also grown in recent years, fueled by shared enmity toward Iran. A deal with Sudan could also give Netanyahu a boost at home. Netanyahu has seen his personal popularity drop due to the coronavirus crisis, which has ravaged the Israeli economy. He also faces widespread criticism while on trial for charges of bribery, fraud, and a breach of trust. Israel has long counted Africa's support. In exchange for its expertise in security and other fields, Israel wants African states to side with it at the UN, General Assembly, and other international bodies that have long favored the Palestinians. I will be back later if something else comes up. I wanted to give you that bit of news. Thank you.